Gators Breakdown episode 36 is live and ready to go. This is going to be a little bit more in-depth episode with the way the program ended, or the way the season ended for Florida and the Outback Bowl win over Iowa. Recruiting coming up, so I thought it was a good time to talk about the state of the program about 3 weeks before signing day, heading into signing day. And tonight, joining me is Joey. Joey from joining me previously weekly with these Gators Breakdown podcast. And joining us again is Mark Moses, who's joined us a couple of times to break down the FSU game and the Iowa Outback Bowl. So, guys, how you doing tonight?
Good, David.
How's it going, David?
Going good, going good. I'm kind of ready to dive in to this and the Florida program. Joey and I, we talked about it pre-show before we talked about what we were kind of going to go over in the show. And, you have the kind of polar opposites of the Jim McElwain era so far. Even though defending back-to-back SEC East winners, you have the people who can defend Jim McElwain, and you also have, believe it or not, a side that already wants Jim McElwain gone after 2 seasons of winning. Pretty much, his SEC games, I think he's only lost 3 conference games in his 2 years. Been to Atlanta twice with Will Muschamp's roster. Will Muschamp couldn't win with it. Jim McElwain's finding a way to win with it. So, I wanted to kind of just get you guys' thoughts on the state of the program with recruiting coming up, a big bowl win, and kind of just, maybe ease some people's minds or maybe not ease their minds. I think, we may not agree on everything what's going on. It's not all sunshine and rainbows on the Florida program, but it's not as bad as nowhere near as bad, I think, as some people are seeing it. Joey, just, quickly, the season, Florida won the East. Yes, they lost to Tennessee for the first time, in 12 tries there, held a big lead in that game. Still beat Georgia, found a way to get a big win against LSU. Quickly, just what did you think with the season? Had a big bowl win at the end. How would you assess this Florida season and this 2016 season?
Well, Jim McElwain essentially won 10 games again this year. Okay, so Florida lost that home game against Presbyterian due to the hurricane and the game at LSU. So Jim McElwain essentially went 10-4 this year again, another season with 10-4. Huge bowl win. We were on here a couple weeks ago with Mark talking about how Florida needed that win and needed that game for recruiting momentum going into the offseason, like unlike last year. And not only did they get the win, they absolutely destroyed Iowa in every facet of the game. The offense looked pretty good, not stellar, but the defense, we got to see a lot of the young guys. We got to see a defense that's probably going to be, a lot of those guys are going to be starting next year. And it was really good to see our new defense, our new defensive coordinator step up and in a big stage and really make Iowa non-existent. That's what I took away most, Dave, about the game in Tampa 2 weeks ago, is the defense, the young guys, the freshman linebackers, the Chauncey Gardner with 2 huge interceptions, 1 return for a touchdown, in his coming out party. And that's something I'm really looking forward to. And, I said this on Twitter, after the game, is that, people, fire McElwain still out there. And I told everybody, and you agreed with me on this, unless McElwain absolutely has a disaster season next year where he only wins 5 or 6 games, he is not going anywhere. It is going into his 3rd year. He is going to have his quarterback this offseason. I would bet my house, my savings, my child on it not being Luke Del Rio. I think he knows that he made a huge mistake last year with that. And I think that he's going to go with one of the redshirt freshmen. We don't know who it is. Most of us assume it's going to be Felipe Franks, just due to the ceiling and the talent level and kind of him being the guy that everybody wants to see, but we just don't know. But he is going to get a 3rd year and most likely will get a 4th year, barring a collapse. So you guys that want to fire McElwain could just go hide away somewhere. This recruiting class is ranked number 18 right now. I know you got into recruiting last night with your show that you did. it's 18th right now, and Florida still has 9 spots left to fill in this class. This class will move up. I really think this class will probably finish around 11 or 12. Most likely could be 10, depending if Florida gets a big flip that we don't know about. There's been rumors, that Florida has some player in the wings right now that, is going to make a signing day flip, or, and if that happens, then Florida very well could break the top 10. And if you get a top 10 class after a 10-win season, David, okay, in the Southeastern Conference, what do you say about that?
I think so too, and I think McElwain's proven he can coach. And I think what we see is you get a quarterback there, it's going to fix the entire team. It's going to fix the offensive line. It's going to fix the receivers. It's going to fix the skill players. It's not going to keep the defense on the field for as long as they have been on the field. I hate to say it's as easy as finding a quarterback. That's the way it looked the past 2 seasons. Now, I know the defense is going to be new, and I think that's kind of what we have to look at going forward. But there's not much of a choice where the offense has to be better next year. It has to be better next year going in to 2017. So, Mark, I know you have your show, and I'll let you plug that before you dive into the question I'm fixing to ask you here. You have your show. You have your show every day. You talk to people around the state. You have multiple guests that are connected to the program. You yourself have been close to the program. You were in Atlanta for the SEC title game, rubbing elbows with some people. Throughout this football season and everybody you talk to, what's kind of the assessment you've come to with the conclusion of the season of this Florida program and the direction?
Well, I appreciate having me on the show, man. Yeah, I'm on 3 to 6, Sports Radio 1560 The Fan. You can listen online also, sportsradio1560.com. I love what Joey said. He's absolutely right. The job that McElwain has done, what he solidified is what Muschamp couldn't do. He was winning those easy games in the division that Muschamp was failing. He's now beating South Carolina. He's beating Missouri. He should have beaten Tennessee this year, but he didn't. He's winning those games. He's winning 9 or 10 games. It's getting us to Atlanta if you're a Florida Gator fan. That's what he solidified as that football coach. Now we're going to see a bunch of recruiting classes going to come in. Now we have to see what he can do with his players there. We've seen some of them, and Joey's right. Chauncey Gardner, a Cocoa Beach kid. Hey, he now, the MVP of the bowl game. He's right there. He's going to help this team. CeCe Jefferson. A lot of these young guys are going to start stepping up. Antonio Callaway will be in year 3, right? But when you look at the national title game and you see what a Deshaun Watson did against Alabama, it really shows not only the Gators, but the whole SEC as a conference. Okay, you need great quarterback play if you're going to dethrone Alabama. It's not just Florida. It's everyone in both divisions in the SEC have terrible quarterback play. It's funny. We talked the whole season about Gators have to get better at quarterback. Let's get one of these young guys. Outside of, maybe Alabama, I don't think there's any good quarterback play on any of these contenders. Georgia, Tennessee, LSU. Bama's got Jalen Hurts. He's a freshman. He's probably going to be there for 2 more years. That's the current state of the program. And I agree with you guys as well. I was looking ahead to top 25 rankings. Like, people are doing those too early top 25 rankings. And some of them are writing, this is how lazy their writing is. Oh, well, Luke Del Rio will try, compete against these freshmen. Are you crazy? Have you seen Florida play? It has to be one of these freshmen moving forward. And Joey was joking with me before the show about we have to go to the Final Four. No. We're going to the spring game, all right, to see those 2 quarterbacks play, Felipe Franks or Trask. I have to see them play. I cannot wait for that spring game. As a media member, they don't let you see practice. Maybe you get 10 minutes. Those are fluff plays. You don't get to see anything.
Yep.
So the spring game, it'll be on full display. But even then, we won't know. And this is the killer. They're going to open up against Michigan. It's not Mark Moses Community College of Florida. They're taking on Michigan at Dallas Cowboys Stadium. That's going to be a big game. But when you look at, different media members or people thinking about the current state of the program, guys, people like what McElwain's done, but he's got to get better. This is the Florida Gators. You're supposed to score offense. And some of those Muschamp recruits, some of those Muschamp defensive players, they're going to go play in the NFL. So you better figure it out. And what I think about Florida, and I'll go back to you guys, is like, I just need drives that can take time off the clock. I want to see a grinder 10-11 play drive. Give me something that can get these other teams in the SEC tired. And then in a nice world, how about the Gator defense only has to be on the field for 25 minutes a game instead of 35 to 40? Is that okay? You guys are absolutely right. They have players. They just need the single caller. Hopefully it's one of these guys on the roster moving forward. But, yeah, he's doing a good job. But Florida is there to win championships, and I've not seen that yet, guys.
Pump the brakes on Jalen Hurts there, Mark. Was he really a good quarterback? Is he a good quarterback, Mark, or was he a product of weak competition? Look at the 3 or 4 best defenses he faced this year, Mark. He did not look so good against Florida. He did not look so good against Washington. He did not look so good against Clemson the other night. We saw him against the best defenses. Jalen Hurts did not impress me at all. He looked like another Blake Sims, another, Greg McElroy, another Alabama quarterback, Mark. He really did. And I think we were there to – I think the dreadlocks kind of made us think that he was a lot better than he was. I think we oversold him on his ceiling. Take him for what he is at this current moment, which I think he still is too young, and I don't think he's as good as people made him out to be. I know we're a Gators breakdown, and I'm getting off subject here, but I did not like all the fluff of Jalen Hurts sunshine pumping the last month and a half, because we just witnessed the last 5 weeks of Alabama football. He has looked very average to below average.
But I will say this. He's a freshman, right? He's freshman.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. He's a freshman. But this is what we have to agree on. What I like that they did, they recruited him and they played him from day one. What have the Gators done? They brought in someone who played at a Big Ten school that was awful, who was never good in the Big Ten, and brought him in. Same thing with Luke Del Rio, like it's this Band-Aid effect. Put someone young in there and see what he can do. Like I've been telling you for weeks, I like Georgia, where they brought in a young guy and just played him, the hell with it, and then 2 more years. That's what the Gators need to do. Let's see these young guys play. Enough of the Band-Aids at the quarterback position.
Yeah, I don't want any more transfers in it, and I promise you, if Malik Zaire enrolls at Florida in the spring, I'm going to lose my absolutely ever-living mind.
So that goes to a good question that we can extend this on. As part of the state of the program, we're talking about these quarterbacks. I know hindsight, we can sit back and say hindsight's 2020. But with this Florida defense, and we knew how good they were going to be, do you blame McElwain for starting and going with Luke Del Rio or Nelson Appleby and redshirting these freshmen? Or did you think even before the season, Franks and Trask, whichever one, should have been getting some playing time?
No, he did the right thing. We knew that Luke Del Rio was the guy. He did the right thing, David. You're never going to foresee an injury. I think that injury to Del Rio's knee changed his mentality. I think he was never the same after that. I think we even talked about that during the season on one of our shows. After that game, when he came back from that injury, mentally he just did not look right. Against Georgia, he didn't look right. Defense bailed him out against Georgia, and the running game bailed him out. He just didn't look right after that. I mean, we saw a game against Kentucky for the ages. I mean, he lit Kentucky up, and Kentucky finished with a formidable record. They finished as a formidable team. So, it wasn't so much fool's gold, I don't want to say, but, I think McElwain did the right thing. And I think it was too late after the Arkansas game, David. You even said after the Arkansas game, I think you got to start Appleby. You're still in the SEC race. You're still in the national championship race. We were at the point in time, and you just had to go with the safe bet. So, I know Mark's not going to like this, but I think, me and you agreed that he did the right thing.
No, hey, I just want you to know, I agree with you, because you look at the spring game last year, Felipe did not look like he knew where the field was at the Swamp. Like he had no idea. Remember, he was an early enrollee.
3 interceptions.
Yeah, remember, because he played in like Orlando at the Citrus Bowl for a championship, and then enrolled early, and then played in the spring game. He did not look ready. He did not. I agree with you. That Arkansas, I'll just tell you, so when you recap the season, That Arkansas game was pathetic by the Gator offense. It was ugly. And that was a CBS national game as well.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
But then you come back and you beat LSU. The thing I want to tell you, where you look at the current state of the program, guys, is if Florida had an offense, a decent offense, they would have put them in the Sugar Bowl. But they just felt like, I'm telling you, the selection committee said, we can't do this anymore.
I agree with you.
If they can figure out, Auburn had no business being in that game. None. They're terrible. It should have been Florida, but it wasn't. And that's something you got to think about moving.
That's what it was.
Yeah. And they were good enough to beat Iowa, who looked like an SEC East team, but they should be playing in the Sugar Bowl moving forward.
And I think Florida would have beat Oklahoma, to be honest, Mark. I really do. I don't think Oklahoma's defense was good enough to be able to hold Florida's running game. Iowa had a way better defense than Oklahoma. I mean, they do. And I don't think that Oklahoma's offense would have been able to do to Florida what they did against Auburn. So I really think that Florida would have beat Oklahoma. It would have been a close game, but I still think Florida wins. And I think Auburn wins with Shaun White. If Shaun White doesn't break his arm in the second quarter, I think Auburn wins that game too, because James Franklin can't throw a forward pass to save his life. So, he's Treon Harris 2.0, 2.5, and 3.0. So, it was an embarrassment for Auburn. Like you said, Mark, Auburn had no business in the Sugar Bowl. And if Florida didn't have Austin Appleby at quarterback, Florida probably would have jumped Auburn in the final college football playoff rankings.
Should we make a how do I say this, proclamation for the next season? No bowl game for the Gators in the state of Florida. We need to think bigger than that. No Orlando, no Tampa. Let's go to a bigger game. Unless the title game or semifinal is in the state of Florida, let's not have a bowl game here. Can we agree on that?
I agree. Yeah. I know the national championship game's in Atlanta in that new stadium.
It is.
And the playoffs have to be in what used to be the BCS Bowl. So yeah, I guess it would be the Orange Bowl. Maybe the Orange Bowl would have a playoff game.
They do. The Orange Bowl has a playoff game this year. Yeah, in Miami.
So maybe we do see him there. All right, so wishful thinking there. So let's see. I think probably one of the biggest.
We'll be there, Mark. We'll be there. We're driving down to Miami if the Florida Gators are playing in the Orange Bowl.
Okay, deal. I like it.
All three of us, we're all going.
I think one of the biggest back and forth I had with fans and Joey, and I think you defended me on this too a good bit, and I don't think necessarily me and you we've disagreed some, and so it's not like we had this show together and we agree all the time. But the one part I think we did agree on, we kept going back and forth: is it players or is it coaches? And especially on the offensive side of the ball, why can't Florida get this thing going on offense? So I'll ask you guys a question. Is it players or coaches? And I lean more towards the coaches, and I think we kind of already discussed it. The quarterback position is really just holding the offense back. But, Doug Nussmeier has his big critics saying, my one complaint against Doug Nussmeier is the red zone offense. He would call masterful games at times, get in the red zone, and Florida would just, crap their pants. But it would just be, we saw quarterback Luke Del Rio or Austin Appleby had guys wide open down the field and could not consistently hit the deep ball. And then, the offensive line, they got better as the season went on. We saw Jordan Scarlett and that offensive line get better and take over as the season went on. So I think that's why I led more towards it's more coaching. It's more of a player personnel issue than it is coaching as far as this offense not being able to click. It's not perfect either way. I'm not saying Doug Nussmeier is perfect or Jim McElwain is perfect, but if you ask me, I thought it was more a player personnel problem and not a coaching problem.
Yeah, it was not a talent problem. It was not a coaching problem. It was a execution problem. David, we talked about this. The plays were there for most of the season, David. We saw wide open receivers running down the field with their arms in the air, ready to, jump into the stands because they were so frustrated for not getting the ball thrown their way. We've seen the offensive line this year play brilliant at times. Absolutely brilliant. And then we've seen times where they, had more leaks than the Iraqi Navy. So, we just don't know what we're going to get with this offense execution-wise, David. Doug Nussmeier has come out with some pretty good game plans. I know you watched the Feinbaum film room with Jim McElwain the other night. Did you?
I did.
Yeah,
I
he
did watch
said
some of
that.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, if you heard him talking, he said our first 8 plays of the game are scripted. So you're going to go in with 8 plays. You're going to have a play for 3rd and 1. You're going to have a play for 3rd and 5, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 13. The quarterback's going to know which of the plays to go with just based on what he knows from practicing them. And Austin Appleby was not able to execute the plays that were there. We saw it against Florida State. We saw it, on the 4th down when they went for it early in the game. We saw it against Alabama where there are wide open receivers running and he throws it to Alabama defensive backs instead. I'm not going to blame the coaches and I'm going to blame the players because, they're kids, they're not professionals, they're not signing million dollar contracts, and this is their job. They're supporting their families, whatnot. But there is an execution. There is a lack of execution that somewhere there's a disconnect. And I don't know if it's because Austin Appleby is not a good quarterback. I don't know if he's minimally intelligent. I don't know what the deal is, but same with Del Rio. There just is not the execution there. And I guess you can put that on coaching, but it definitely not the talent. The talent is there. We see what it is. Mark touched on this. You need a signal caller back there that can pull the trigger, that can throw the 5-yard out, that can throw the 10-yard slant, that can throw the 30-yard fade, that throw the 50-yard go route. You need to throw the route tree. This is a quarterback-driven college football now. Games are not 1-16-13 anymore. This is not your grandpa's SEC, where Alabama wins a national championship 9-3. This isn't what it used to be anymore, David. This is a quarterback-driven league in the NFL, and it's trickled down to a quarterback-driven college football league. And the SEC was kind of the last to kind of jump on that. Up until 5 years ago, the SEC still was winning games. Look at that Alabama LSU game, one for the ages in 2011. 9-6 was the final score, and they both go on to play for the national championship. And LSU doesn't cross the 50-yard line the entire game. This isn't that league anymore. It's 2017 now. You have to have a quarterback to win in the SEC, and there's no excuses anymore. McElwain's 3rd year. You got to get it going, and this is the year where coaching is going to have to take effect.
I love the answer. I really do. I love it. You get me fired up. The only problem is we're like 8 months away.
We're flying to Dallas right now. I'm flying to Dallas right now. I'm ready. You said we're going to camp out outside AT&T Stadium. We're doing.
Come on. You said you were excited for the spring game.
I am excited. Okay. If you're going to go quarterback, I'm going to go players for your answer. The 2 guys for the offense, I think, really have to step up in 2017. One, because I feel like, the last couple of years we got multiple guys there. We have depth. But I want someone to really grab the bull by the horns. Like Scarlett's a 1,000-yard runner. I want him to go for 1,200, 1,300 in 2017. I want him to really solidify he's the number one, and you have Piron as the backup, right? But I want Scarlett to really break through. It'll be the 3rd year he's in the program. I want to see him take that next step. The other one is Cleveland on 16. He was, kind of picking up the offense and really started to help later in the season. I want to see him take that step to be the number 2 guy with Callaway and Powell as well. We got to get more receivers as well. It's not just the signal caller. Who are they getting the ball to? I want to see Cleveland and Scarlett really step it up in that next year of the offense. Depending on who the quarterback's going to be, they got to get some weapons. And it's not, it's like they always say, like a bad team says, I hope we can do this. Great teams go, we're going to do this, this, and this. Those are those weapons I want to see take the next level. And it starts with Scarlett. We need an all-American type running back. Like he's there. He showed promise. Let's just start dominating from that running back position. I think that's been missing as well. Run and throw as well. That's got to be my answer. I'm looking at some of these players, man.
Well, you heard Jim McElwain. He said the priority of this offseason is to get tougher and physical up front. Yeah. He wants an offensive line that the other team's defense looks at and says, oh my God, these guys are monsters. And, that's what he wants. He wants the 1,200, 1,300-yard rusher. And, Mark, a little on Scarlett's defense. he might have rushed for that many yards. But early in the season, remember, it was running back by committee. Scarlett would have 2 or 3 runs of over 10 yards, and they would pull him out and put in Mark Thompson or put in Jordan Cronkright, who's not even with the program anymore. So, in Scarlett's defense, I think if he would have been the starter from day one, which me and Dave had been saying that since, the first game, that there's no business for anybody else to start. I think he would have had a lot more yards than he did, Mark. But I think that Jim McElwain knows what he needs this offseason, which makes me believe that he's the guy. I mean, some of the things that you hear him saying about getting better in recruiting, hiring somebody that's going to be vicious in the recruiting department. He kind of gave signs, hinted of a big hire. The fact that he came out and said, we're getting physical up front. That is what we are going to do in the trenches. We are going to dominate the line of scrimmage. And that's where it starts, Mark. And I really think that if Florida dominates the line of scrimmage the way Alabama has in the past, Florida's going to start winning games offensively, and Florida's going to start putting up points. And that's something Florida fans have been clamoring for a long time. And I think the first time that we see a quarterback throw for 400 yards next season, I think everybody's going to ooze in their drawers.
Is that your cover band at the bar? Ooze in the drawers? Are they playing Friday night downtown?
That's my clean it up version for a live YouTube broadcast. So, family friendly listening for the kids in the car. So
that got the chuckles. I like that. A couple more topics before we call this a wrap. Joey, you hit on it before. The defense, we've seen the young guys. We know kind of what they can do going into next season. Florida's going to lose 8 guys off this defense. You probably be looking at 4 of them going in the first round. I mean, unheard of, unbelievable. For this to keep happening for this Gators defense. So we know the names. C.C. Jefferson, Taven Bryan, Antonius Clayton, Vashawn Joseph, David Reese, Jeremiah Moon, Duke Dawson's coming back. Chauncey Gardner, we've mentioned his name a good couple bit. Are you surprised that some of these guys are not as highly recruited as the guys that they're replacing? They weren't as, they didn't have the stars coming in. More of these guys are 3 and 4 stars and not your big 5 stars. Are we surprised that these guys were able to step in and keep that reputation of a Florida defense? And do we look for similar results in 2017? I think we can expect some type of drop-off. Is it a big drop-off?
No, I'm not surprised. Look at a guy like Jabari Zuniga. I don't know if you mentioned him. 3-star recruit, only had a few offers, and he absolutely jumped off your television screen last year. He was absolutely sensational, and I think that he has one of the potential to be the next Jared Davis type guy. 3-star out of high school, never really got much attention, pretty much jumped off your television screen, and then he's going to be a first-round pick this year, David. And it's absolutely awesome to see guys like that just play like, all Americans. And I absolutely love it. And I've touched on this on Twitter to all the, the Fire McElwain hive and the We Can't Recruit hive people is, stars don't always matter all the time, because Jim McElwain loves to recruit the 3 stars and the 4 stars because they come in with chips on their shoulders. I mean, look at Marco Wilson's Twitter account. Look at Elijah Blade's Twitter account. They were talking about how they weren't picked to play in the Under Armour All-American game or the Army All-American game. They have something to prove when they come to Florida next year, those guys. They want to show, and Jim McElwain does this sensationally. He's a kind of an underdog type guy. He was a walk-on quarterback at Eastern Washington. And, look at the recruits that he got at Colorado State when he got his first head coaching job. Garrett Grayson was a 2-star quarterback, turned him. He's now the backup quarterback and heir apparent to Drew Brees. Guys like that are the underdogs. He likes guys that have a chip on their shoulder. He wants guys to come in and say, I wasn't a 5-star recruit. I wasn't being wooed by money. I wasn't being wooed by, naked women on campus when I would go visit. He wants guys that think that they're better than them, but they didn't get the attention, due to whatever reason. And I absolutely love that.
What's your thoughts, Mark, on this defense from what you've seen? And because I mentioned you talk to a good bit of people. I know you have many guests on your show who have their own recruiting websites, who have their own Gators articles they put out in newspapers. Do they speak highly of this defense, or do they see and yourself? Do you see a drop off?
See, I liked with the bowl game where a lot of these young guys got to play. I actually did. I think it was good experience for them to get that type of feel, getting ready. And even for trying to sell season tickets to fans, I think that was good to see some of these young guys, because it was funny over the last couple of weeks. I know, David, you and Joey were doing this where you would show on Twitter which players declaring for the draft. And I made the joke, just say the whole 2016 defense declaring for the draft. It is going to be, and Joey's absolutely right, it is going to be a whole new defense. But this ski, going back to the offense, it's like you look at the rank, they're in the hundreds overall. If you can get the offense around 60 or 70 ranked in the country, which I still is not good enough, but get them off the field. I mean, I can't stress this enough. Get them off the field, man. I think there's so much pressure over the last 4 years on the Gators defense to win games by themselves that I just think it's too much for any college athlete. I don't care if you're a 2-star or 5-star. And by the way, if you're ranked top 20 in recruiting, I don't think you're a dumpster fire. So these people on social media, it's like, calm down. Do you know J.J. Watt was like a 2 or 3-star recruit? Do you know that, right? What was he, a tight end? He got nothing. I mean, it's like insane when you think of some of these guys with recruiting. Khalil Mack from Fort Pierce, Florida, had to go to the University of Buffalo. That was it. That was his shot to go play college football. And now he's like one of the best NFL players playing defense.
It's because some of these guys, Mark, they just sell their souls to these recruiting sites, Mark. They just throw their money. They get their paychecks and they just pour all this money and give their bank account information to these recruiting sites like Rival and Scouts and say, here, take my money. I'm a premium member. You tell me what I'm supposed to think. And then they turn into robots when they think of recruiting. And the recruiting services tell you, oh, no, this guy has to be a 5-star. This school isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing because they missed on this recruit and this recruit. It's all a bunch of nonsense, Mark. Don't believe it.
I know. And I want you to know, you look at Georgia, they're, I think, top 5 with their recruiting class for 2017. They're right there. But what I tell Georgia people, and this is when I was in Atlanta and I was listening to the Georgia radio network, Georgia doesn't win on recruiting day. Georgia will prove it to me when they go to Jacksonville and beat the Florida Gators. That's when they'll prove it to me that they're a legitimate team. They have not done that. They couldn't do it against Muschamp, and they haven't done it against Coach Mack yet. I don't care who they recruit. And I know they have some of the best recruits in the country. They have to do it in Jacksonville if they're going to prove it to the SEC. If they're going to do anything, they got to beat the Gators first. I haven't seen it. I don't care who they bring in. They have to beat the Gators.
David can attest to this. Winning signing day doesn't win you a championship. He even put it out there with the 24/7 rankings of Clemson's recruiting class over the last couple of years. And they only broke the top 10 1 year out of all those years. And, I
went back the last 4 years. I went back the last cycle from freshmen to sophomores, from freshmen to seniors. The last 4, one class broke the top 10, as Joey said. And I think we know they had an elite quarterback. They hit their targets and skill position players, and there you go. It was a recipe for playing in a national championship 2 years in a row, taking Bama down to the buzzer last year, and then winning the game this year. Granted, recruiting rankings they do stand for something. I mean, the teams you see at the top of those recruiting rankings are consistently. The teams that are consistently playing for titles are teams that are consistently at the top of the recruiting rankings, but it's not as cut and dry. It's not a cookie cutter system. There are teams who can go out there. Now, I know, I said, consistently, if you want to be at the top, yes, you got to recruit. We saw it under Urban Meyer. He brought class after class after class in. Florida was near the top his entire coaching tenure at Florida. But Ron Zook recruited well, nothing. Will Weschamp recruited well on one side of the ball, as we know now. So, it's not an exact science by any means. And you got to have a coach as well to take that next step. So before we
going back, one thing, going back to Urban Meyer's classes, that 2010 class, they called one of the best classes in history. That class ended up being a bust class. Florida, I think 4 out of Florida's top 10 recruits in that class left after their freshman year. They transferred out, and Florida's number 1 recruit, Ronald Powell, out of that class, played one season because he was injured his entire career. So, we can't always go off of, like you said, here's last year's recruit rankings, class rankings, and I'm going to go by them here, top 10. Alabama, Florida State, Ohio State, Michigan. After that, you got LSU, Clemson, Texas, terrible. Ole Miss, terrible. Didn't even make a bowl game. Texas didn't make a bowl game. Auburn got run off the road for having a lot of games this season. UCLA didn't even make a bowl game either. So these are your top 10 classes, Mark. This is going back just to last year. So now, hold on. Let me go back to 2015 real quick, and I'm going to show you. This is a top 10 class. This is going to show you, yes, it's important to have a top 10 class, but I'm also going to show you how important it isn't. Number 1, USC. USC just is starting to be good this year. Tennessee had a top 5 class 2 years ago, Mark. They couldn't even win their division in a crap division this year. Okay.
No, they couldn't beat Vandy.
Lost to Vanderbilt. Lost to Kentucky. Look at these.
Lost to Will Muschamp again.
Will Muschamp again. Will Muschamp 5-0 against Tennessee. Georgia 6. Georgia hasn't been to the SEC championship game in 5 years. Auburn 7. Texas A&M 10. I mean, come on, this is 2 years ago. Notre Dame 11. Recruit rankings don't matter, folks. Okay, say it with me. Clap, clap. Recruit rankings don't matter. Yes, it feels good. It's a great momentum. It's awesome. But guess what? That doesn't make a national championship program. I'm reading some of these teams that didn't even make bowl games the last couple years, folks. Okay, so I'm telling you right now, it doesn't always matter. Classes don't always pan out. It really doesn't. Look at Penn State at the 15th ranked class 2 years ago. Penn State's probably going to be a top 7 or 8 program next year. So we don't always, I mean, come on, folks. Come on. Get real.
Why is the cutoff top 10? I mean, that seems what it seems to be.
What it is. I'm just trying to see. That's what everybody wants.
Yeah, exactly.
Top 10. Exactly. Top 10. Everything's top 10.
Yeah.
Top 10. Like it has to top 10. If you're not top 10, I heard the other part, Florida sells itself. If you're not getting top 10 classes at Florida, guess what, folks? It's 2017. Florida is not what it used to be. Every other school, there's parity in college football. Guess what? Texas A&M can offer the same stuff Florida can now. It never used to be that way. So you have to change with the times. It's not like it used to be. People are going off of what, Urban Meyer, Steve Spurrier could walk right in your living room and say it's Florida. Will Muschamp could walk in your living room and say it's Florida. Well, Jim McElwain walks in your living room and says, hey, it's Florida. Well, guess what, Florida? I could go to 10 other schools that have exactly what you have because they just spent $100 million on their facilities too. So it's not like it is anymore, and I just want people to come back to reality. Come back to reality, folks.
You just like you read my mind of where I was going next.
No, we can go get
just keep going back.
No, David, seriously, we'll go get a beer. He'll keep talking. We're going to go. He knows what we're thinking as well.
Sorry.
Okay, here we go. So before I wrap it up, Jeremy Foley retired. And, now Scott Strickland come in, new AD, a new direction for Florida. And Joey, you mentioned lack of facilities. We've mentioned now if you read some tea leaves and you keep going back on what was kind of happening to the Florida program under Urban Meyer during Jeremy Foley's tenure, you could kind of see, the money wasn't being spent like it was at other schools. Facilities kind of fell behind. I know people don't want to hear that because, like you said, Florida can sell itself. Like you said, that's not the case anymore. These recruits are divas. They want the student life facilities. They want athletic facilities to be crazy. And now I think you could also hear that maybe Foley kind of blocked some assistant coaches being hired, and now Florida is trying to get those guys back in the fold as the assistant coaches now, Mike Locksley being one of them, who could end up on this Florida staff. Jeremy Foley did not want him on this Florida campus. And, there's some history with Locksley and some player conduct he had toward other players. But, you're going to start seeing things you didn't see under Jeremy Foley that you're going to see under Scott Strickland moving forward. So like I mentioned, assistant coaches, facilities coming in, stipends that are not as much as other schools. Can Jim McElwain turn the tide there? Because he he's hinted, I don't know how many times in press conferences, he needs more help from the
Can I
administration.
interject just for 1 second? One second on Jeremy Foley. Jeremy Foley had a boss to answer to as well for many years, Dr. Bernard Matchin. Dr. Bernie Matchin is a Mormon, okay? Dr. Matchin was very, very low on athletics and very high in academics. Dr. Matchin came from Oral Roberts University, which is a very, very strict, school, religious school. And Jeremy Foley's hands were tied in a lot of situations as far as recruiting, as far as, hiring and stuff like that, because Dr. Matchin had a lot of input in what was going on. Dr. Matchin wanted to run the cleanest whistle program out there. And, Dr. Fox, who took over for Dr. Matchin, is about the athletics, so you're going to start seeing more things. So a little heat off of, Jeremy Foley for something that he, maybe where his hands were tied due to his boss, because Jeremy Foley maybe ran the show in the AA department, the athletics department, UAA, but he didn't run the show on campus, and he had a boss to answer to. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, and I was going to eventually lead up to that because I had a list of things I was trying to read off there for some. No, you're good for some support. So Mark, I'll go with you to that. From what you've seen and what you've heard, did under your assumption, did McElwain, when he first came in, was it different from Urban Meyer and Will Muschamp? Like, did he have support from the higher ups?
I think he does now. And it's a good example. Even basketball with the O-Dome, they finally upgraded that facility. I'm sorry to say this. I've been covering college basketball for a long time. That O-Dome was not up to par. I've seen mid-major basketball arenas better than that place. That's what gets me excited. They finally put money into that arena because that's a team that's won national championships as well. And now it's finally going to look like a big boy Division I program type basketball arena. I think they are going to go in the right direction. And come on, you're the University of Florida. You shouldn't have any restrictions on money. It should just be flowing in. That's what's so crazy about it. But I think they're going to be all right moving forward. Scott Strickland, I'm sorry, I can't. It's been a long day. I apologize. Scott Strickland, remember, he was going to get the job, turned it down. Then didn't he get more money and then accepted the job? Isn't the timeline?
That's
he
kind of
took more money. Yeah, he took more money to be the athletic director. So I don't think money's going to be a problem because they wanted him to be there as the new guy in charge. But we really won't know his impact for a while. It might be into next academic year before you really start seeing those changes. But go on, man.
Yeah, Florida still has the patent on Gatorade. So Florida gets royalties off of Gatorade sales. So people don't understand. Florida gets a percentage of Gatorade sales, and it's at a ridiculous amount, okay? So Florida has money just coming in regularly, stupid money coming in. So just to back you up, Mark, Florida has money to burn. It's just sad that past, people weren't able to spend it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I mean,
just going off of what you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of flight thrown toward Jeremy Foley, so I'm glad you brought up the President Matchin stuff there, Joey, because he gets slammed, and a lot of people think he dropped the ball late in his career. And right before he retired, he announced that new athletic facility that's going to start being built there for Florida. So while Strickland will probably get a lot of kudos for that, it was Jeremy Foley's last hurrah before he was getting out there. So before we wrap this show up, it was Gators Breakdown, episode 36, the state of the program. You can find this podcast right now live on YouTube. Before we wrap this up, audio versions will be available on SoundCloud and iTunes later on tonight when I upload those versions for you. Don't want to burn all your data if you just want to don't just sit there and watch on YouTube and get that video version. You can get the audio versions to save that to save your data plans there. So, anything before we wrap up here, you guys want to say about this program moving forward?
Go ahead, Mark.
The thing is, it's early January. We'll have National Signing Day in early February. Then we got spring practice. So I know it's hard. We've been saying this for 2 years. You just have to be patient if you like the Florida Gators. I mean, it's going to be a long summer, long spring practice. We're going to have headlines. Basketball looks better than you think, right? Top 25 team. They're looking good in the SEC. Then we'll have baseball as well with SEC baseball. Let's try to get, that Gator team back to Omaha. Those are kind of the headlines. It's sad that we have to wait about 8 months to get back to SEC football when you think about it, but I think they're okay for right now. And I'm sorry, I'm driving both of you guys to the spring game in Gainesville. We're going to cover that, okay? I cannot wait for that. That's what it is. It's so hard in 2017 where it's just, give me now, give it to me 5 seconds ago. You just have to be patient. I mean, that's what it's going to be. And even, look, if they pick a quarterback, we won't really know until about October. Once they finally solidify, it's going to take a couple games. And, with Joey, we're going to have to get heart medication ready for him against that game against Michigan, because who knows what the hell's going to happen in that game, all right? It's going to be crazy. So that's it.
Get the defibrillators out, too.
Yeah, I know. Exactly. Like, seriously, let's get to National Signing Day. Let's do spring practice for the whole SEC and just March Madness. I mean, that's really the things right now. We have to put a bow on this season. Clemson won because they had great quarterback play, and that's what the Gators and the SEC need to look at. If you're going to beat Alabama, you're going to have someone who's better than throwing the ball 3 yards at a time, all right? You're going to have someone who can make plays. That's the bottom line. You have to get better on offense if you're going to beat Alabama. That's about it, man.
Yeah, Florida's going to have to win games on offense next year. We know that. Florida's defense is going to be good, but they're not going to be good as they've been the last couple of years. We can just put that out there now. So Florida has to, and I know Jim McElwain knows that. You have to play clock control, like you said, Mark. You have to keep the defense on the bench for, a majority of the game next year. And, I'm not going to put too much stock in the spring game because I watched Jeff Driscoll absolutely lighted up his freshman year at the spring game, and I was so excited. And
Luke Del Rio last year going 10 for 11.
Yeah. So we can just pump the brakes on and all that noise about the spring game. Like you said, Mark, I think we won't know what the quarterback situation is going to be until October, probably the end of September, because Florida has a good stretch of games, in September that are going to prove to be tough, especially for a first-time starter. Like you said, get National Signing Day, and then we'll take it one step at a time. Spring practice starts, a month after National Signing Day. We want to watch our Gators play, basketball coming up. We got, a couple months left of that. I'm excited for March Madness already. But I do want to say something a little off topic, is that I don't know if you saw my tweet earlier. Alabama had 12 fans show up at their airport to greet the team when they landed back in Tuscaloosa yesterday. How disgusting is that? How absolutely, that made me sick to my stomach, and I can't stand Alabama. And that made me sick to my stomach to see what that team did this year. And they had 12 fans show up. That fan base is so messed up in the head. They really are. Nick Saban destroyed that fan base. If you listen to Paul Feinbaum, you'll want to turn it off after 5 minutes because your ears will start to bleed. I mean, when I heard somebody call yesterday and say that their dog was depressed and couldn't eat, I wanted to drive my car off the road. I really did. I wanted to drive my car into the side of a building. I just didn't even know what to think. That fan base has something wrong with their minds. They really do. And it's Nick Saban's fault. They're so spoiled and so arrogant that 12 fans would show up to greet a team that just went 14-1 and literally was 1 second away from winning a national championship, 1 second away from winning their 5th national championship under Nick Saban, and 12 people show up to the Tuscaloosa airport. It's disgusting.
What about, Joey, what you guys like? It was 60-40 Clemson fans at the stadium.
You read I was going to say that too. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. They spent their money in Atlanta. They're going to Atlanta.
They get tired of spending their money every year for national championship games.
I'm jealous of that. I wish I had that problem.
I wish I had that problem. Yeah.
Guess what? They're going to fall hard when Nick Saban leaves. Even if they get Dabo Swinney, Dabo's not doing what Nick Saban's done. Sorry, he's not going to do it. And when they go 8 or 9 wins in their first season after Nick Saban leaves, I cannot wait.
All right. Gators Breakdown, episode 36. You heard from us the state of the program for this Florida Gators team after the 2016 season. Florida's going to roll forward to 2017. Those guys mentioned spring game coming up. We won't know much after the spring game, folks. It just won't happen. No matter how good it looks, no matter how bad it looks, we won't know anything until Florida kicks off next season. against Michigan in Dallas. So for Mark, for Joey, this is Dave on Gators Breakdown. We'll catch you guys later.